Shri Veene Namaste. Namo Bharati, Namo Bharati, Namo Bharati. Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Namo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyah. We have the great august holy presence of His Holiness, and we have the stalwarts of one of the great contemporary stalwarts in the judiciary. We have the great justice here. We have such great, wonderful Vidwans here, and we all hurry towards the grand finale, the crowning glory of the president or the chairman of this 3-day magnificent international seminar. And here I am, the late Latif, coming from Mysuru, known for his gift of gab, standing in between these two. I beg your pardon for this. But I thought, I had actually prepared a big paper. Don't worry, I'm not going to open it up. But I'm going to make a very small presentation of that with a thought. I thank my Vidvat Sahodara, the Vainika, the whom I have great love and respect also. We have gone around the country and a few portions of Europe, invading their Rangasthala with our Gayaka Vainika Sampradaya. And now USA, behold, we are coming there soon. I thank my dear brother, Prashanth Iyengar, for showing such great concern and affection towards me, and asked me to come here and summarize about Veena. Where did we start in our country as a Veena? What happened? And now, what are we today? In doing so, it is our endeavor to see, can we do something else, something more, without losing this great hore tradition that we have inherited in our country. Whatever happens in our country is always Nava Navonmesha Shalini. The Sheela is in the Nava Nava Unmesha. All the past glory comes on to the present stage with a renewed glory, recreating our country as a cultural entity, not just as a vitta or socio-political aspect, but as kala. Whatever I present here today, I am only a Mukhavani of that Moolavani, my father, Mahamahopadhyaya Rasatyanarayana. When his age permitted, he gave me these points to ponder before you today. In our history, there are many stringed, wind, percussive and solid musical instruments which are mentioned in the Veda. Among them, the stringed instruments were generally called as Veenas. They have always played an important role in defining and shaping the melodic content of Indian music. This is to be noted with great reverence. A vital aspect of this fixation, standardization, rationalization, comparison and normalization of the musical intervals of these systems. This is accomplished in terms of string lengths. That is why we have two kinds of these chordophones, one with the fret and one without the fret. And in Veda, both are called as Veenas for its own purposes, which I am going to delineate shortly. The conceptualization, quantification, and measurements are the very essence of a systematic temper. And in this session, I would like to very briefly touch upon that also. Numerous instances of musical instruments are found in India for the first time in Vedic literature. We can take a very brief note of that. There are some 10 chordophones comprising both monochords and polychords, which are widely mentioned in Vedas, and their ancillary texts too. They were used with the voices For the Gana, we must not forget that these Veenas were used when we didn't have the Mela Paddhati in vogue, but we had the Grama Paddhati, and the Vedic Grama started with the Gandhara Grama, and then which gave rise to the two other Gramas, the Madhyama Grama and the Shadja Grama. And this Veena ensconced all these three and safely made the passage for the Gandhara Grama to wade away or merge into the Madhyama Grama and the Shadja Grama. They were used with the voices and other instruments in the Vedic sacrificial rituals. You can see many such descriptions in the Soma Yajna description. They were named, all these Veenas were named by and large after the shape of the heads or the bodies of various animals, and some after the number of playing strings. We still have Shatatantri or Shatatantu even today. We have the Tritantri also. Its latest avatar is the Sikh Thar. For example, the Bana or the Vana was a harp of the 100 strings. And some were plucked, some were strummed, some played with a bow. We have ample evidence given by our revered previous speaker, Rama Bennuru, who gave you these pictures had to go away fast. But I will be using that with the indulgence of your memory as to the structures of this Bana or the Veena. One text I would like to highlight. The Aitareya Aranyaka describes a chordophone on the analogy of the human anatomy, and now we are doing that with the Gayatri Mantra or the Gayatri Tantra or the Gayatri Yantra. Vedic texts refer to every chordophone by its generic name, Veena or the Bana. Thus, the Aghati Veena is mentioned by the Rigveda and Taittiriya Brahmana. Vana equals Bana. The most prominent Veena is mentioned by Rigveda, Taittiriya Samhita, Tandya Brahmana, Aitareya Aranyaka, Jaiminiya Brahmana, Bodhayana Shrauta Sutra, Apastamba Shrauta Sutra, and so many others. The Shrauta Sutra mentions the chordophones Alabu, or Vakra, or Kapishirshti, Mahaveena, and Apaghatalika. Now, these are the names you can put together with the animal's heads or the animal bodies. The Katyayana Shrauta Sutra mentions Vana, Godha, or the Kanda Veena. Now, this Kanda Veena is of great importance in the Vedic offering. The Apastamba Shrauta Sutra makes reference to the Veenas Apaghatilaka, Stambala, and Pichola. And Pichola or Pichola is of great importance even to this day in most of the ritualistic offerings offered in holiest of the places of our country. Apastama Sutra and Varaha Shrauta Sutra refers to the chordophone called Shatatantu and Kandaveena. And now both Shatatantu and Kandaveena are still vogue for the Vedic offerings. Bodhayana Shrauta Sutra mentions Aghati, Pichola, and Karkatika. Satyashadha Hiranya Shrauta Sutra mentions Abhagatalika, Taluka, Kanda, Pichola, Alabu, Kapishirshti, and etc. Veenas. Some passages in Vedic literature also suggestive of a chordophonic keyboard, which can be found in the Rigveda, but the very first mention that we can authenticate is from the Natya Shastra of the Bharata Muni. Obviously, Bharata must have inherited this great Veena tradition to his times, but Bharata doesn't give you the fretted Veena descriptions. A larger perspective of this Veena can be, for more interested people, you can find it out in the Nartana Nirnaya written by R. Satyanarayana, published by the IGNCA of New Delhi. When Bharata wrote the Natya Shastra, and we have the additional text also in the Nevari script, we can see most of these descriptions. The earliest reference, to the best of my knowledge, to the Veena Danda with the frets is found in Haribala Deva in his Sangeeta Sudha, who states that the neck of the Kinnari Veena, called the Saranga Veena in his vernacular, had a neck 40 angulas long on the upper side, which are set to 14 frets called bhittis. Now you must, as and when I see, you must realize that these names like Meru, Bhitti and all those things have a ring to their equivalents in the Kannada vernacular. They are fixed with the beeswax mixed with the charred cloth, the practice which is in vogue even today. The Vainikas who create their own melas will tell you what they are doing to fix these frets. Next to the Meru, the nut is 2 angulas across the neck. The 14th is 1 inch in length. That is, you have seen this Veena in one of the presentations by Dr. Rama Bennuru, where the frets actually have a conical shape. The first is the largest, which is the main fret, which is called the Nalika, and the last one, the 14th one, and plus addition one more, the 15th, reduces itself to the 1 angula. Now, from the large 2 inches or 3 inches or the 3 angulas, it reduces to 1 angula with 1 tantri in the all around the length. Next to Someshwara, the third describes Kinnari in similar terms as possessed of 14 frets. These frets are shaped like the back of the tortoise, made from the breastbone of an eagle, tapering from 2 angulas to the 1 angula. There are many descriptions I can give, but I'll skip through. Sharangadeva, 13th century, is most detailed in all this. It is very interesting to note the greatness of the Sharangadeva here. What he has mentioned, the Tulajendra or the Raghunathandra Mela Veena in the 18th century inherited this. Sharangadeva is detailed. He not only details it, he gives a quantitative descriptions of the keyboards of the Veena. Now, the keyboard of the Veena is the most distinctive thing using which we can now write the historiography of the Veena since the Vedic times to this day and this hour. Now, this was not a fretted instrument that he describes, which is called the Ekatantri in the 13th century. Ekatantri, just 1 tanti in the middle, in the middle of this conical reducing fretted dandi, and this was played with the kamra. You saw the kamra, didn't you, in those pictures? That arc-like thing with which the player not only rubbed but also hit. Now, Prashanth corrected that to be the Ghettu Vadya. It's only a very small part of that Ghettu Vadya, but it was also rubbed according to Sharangadeva. And then, now we have the kamra, like we have the Gottu Vadya, that nut-like thing, which you slide along the dandi to give more musical structure. Now, Sharangadeva calls this as the sarikas, and in one of the prabandha he gives, the Veena, the Ekatantri Veena, is to be played as an accompaniment to one of the Prabhustuti or the Kaivada prabandha that the Sharangadeva mentions. After the Prabhustuti, there should be an alapa in the Tristhai, and there the Veena Gayaka join together and gives rise to this. Venkatamaki has inherited this great sampradaya, and to this day we have the only remaining prabandha of the Venkatamaki called the Kaivada Prabandha, which he has composed in praise of his mother Nagambika and his father, his guru. Now, the Kinnari is a prototype of the Indian monochord Veena. Sharangadeva delineates its classical and folk forms also. And to this day, you have seen many folk forms. You can see which is folk and which is classical by the tumbu content. There are two types of Veenas that the Sharangadeva says. That is, the Lagvi, the smaller one, or the Brihati, or the bigger one. The Brihati had 3 tumbus because of the span and the sort of vibration resonances that the Dandi has to give you in forms of the music. And now the Deshi aspect of it eliminated one more tumbu and retained only one tumbu, which was held on the shoulders. And hence we have the Lagvi Ekatumbu Veena, all described in the 13th century by the Sharangadeva. Now Sharangadeva, the former had 2 varieties, that is the Lagmi. The Lagvi Kinnari consisted of a neck of a red sandal or acacia katuku, the Adakemara, which we all know, smooth, round, 41 angulas long, 5 angulas in circumference. The bridge of the Shaka, the teak or the Tectona grandis, 5 angulas long and 2 half angulas wide, was placed on it. Its string was steel, thick as the hair of the elephant. This Veena had 14 frets called the Sarika, which were tubular. Nalika made the breastbone of the eagle steels, or the steel or the bronze. Sharangadeva also takes in the bronze Nalika. And they were as long as the little finger of the performer. Each Nalika, the maximum Nalika you could have, was the fret. And now, until 13th century, the Pandari Eka Vithala said, the Veena Pramana is the Vainika Kati Pramana. Now, let me skip through all this. Sharangadeva describes Deshi Veena. You saw all the pictures of the Deshi Veena there with their camera and the Gettu. Sharangadeva makes very worthy note of that. I shall publish this article in my website and interested people can say. But I will quote one just excerpt from him, which he says, the Kinnari has altogether 14 notes, 14 in 2 register, Mandra and Madhya, and 1 extra for the Tara. This is the extra we have to take into consideration. The Simha Bhupala interprets this to mean 16 notes, the note on the opening string, notes due to 14 frets, and 1 note of the Tara register. And he says, Vimukyataya tantriya jatam prathamam svarancha kritva sarinam chaturdashabhihi antaraihi madhya pradeshaihi antye chaturdasha svaraha syuhu. Evam panchadashabhihi svarair mantra saptakam madhya saptakam syat tara saptakasya ekaswaro adhiko bhavati. The 22 plus 2 frets that we have is based on this computation that the Sharangadeva gives. And now, let me skip through most of these. There are many ambiguities in the textual traditions of the making and the playing of the Veena. Let me not go into all that. So, what is amongst these huge developing dynamic modes of Veenas? What is the Veena that we say? What is the Veena that we identify here today in our country? If I say Veena, yes, you will say, yes, here it is. And now we have the Veena. How is it that we are able to notice this Veena? Now, for a very long time, there was a belief that it was the Raghunatha Mela Veena which was the forerunner of the modern day Veena, which is not quite so. The Sangeeta Sada claims to have been authored by Raghunatha Nayaka, king of Tanjore, but Venkatamakin claims in his Chaturdandi Prakashika that the Sangeeta Sudha was authored by his father, Govinda Dikshita, and that the Raghunatha Mela Veena was created by him and dedicated to Raghunatha Mela. And there are many, many intricacies in that book of the Govinda Dikshita, which the learned research scholars are mostly the master's level, postgraduate level students have to learn, have to read, and then they will know there is a huge difference which I have delineated in a large perspective here, but let me not go into all that. Let me jump into the description of the Tulajendra Veena. It is my belief that it is the Tulajendra Mela Veena which was the forerunner of the modern day 24 fretted, the great Saraswati Veena that we have. Analyzing the collective sources of Sangeeta Saramritam available at the Tanjore Saraswati Mahal Library, Dr. V. Raghavan shows that the manuscript number 10787, 10800, 10801, and 10789 of the work contain valuable additions to the Swara chapter not found in the Padmit and Pandit S. Subramani Shastri's edition. These include a description of the Tulajendra Mela Veena as noted by him in his introduction to the work on the subject. The passage, if I just translate the passage and give it to you, this will be the end of my presentation. Quote, Tulajendra Mela Veena. Now will be described the Veena created by Tulaja, in which lie 23 smooth bronze rods in between the Meru and the Shadja called the Atitara, which are raised at both ends of the Pravala, the walls of the keyboard, and slightly low concave at the middle, which is attractive with 7 pegs and with other prescribed characteristics, in which the effort in setting the keyboard is minimal. This is replete with all desirable lakshanas, is splendid with all decorations, with all desired varnal alankaras, that is phrases of melodic movements, which fulfills all the musical and extra-musical desires of the performer and captivates forever the hearts of Veena performers. The Ekatantri Veena, the Vipanchi Veena, and the 3-stringed Veena are but subordinates of the Tulajendra Mela Veena. So he says, except for the difference in shape, all the Veenas described under the names of the authors in their own works are alike in the world from the point of view of Swara arrangement scheme alone. How indeed can all these other Veenas ever equal in form to this Veena created by the Tulajendra in his own name for his own treatise? Therefore, this alone is important, best of all Veenas. Those who desire to perform correctly and wholly should take only this Veena wherein the instrumental virtuosity accrues without fatigue. Aspirants who desire to practice with felicity should also take up only this Veena. To this day, we play that Veena. I thank you all for giving me this hurried harangue just before the grand finale that we have to see. In our country, post-independent era saw many urgent, hurried versions of interpretations to our culture. In that hurried interpretations to our culture, I find much to the pain in my heart that what is enshrined in the Constitution, our Veena, is left to only in the hands of the players, but as not considered as the conglomerate of innumerable 3 generations and continuing generations of Vainikas who hold the Veena in great divinity and virtue. And now this Veena as a concept, as a standardized concept, as the divinity is to be enshrined back, defined back into the constitutions. And the constitutional provisions have to be made to accommodate Veena to portray the true culture of our nation. Namo Bharati.
Thank you so much, dear brother Nandakumar. Dr. Nandakumar is always fascinating with the speech because wherever we have gone to abroad and he has delivered the lecture, he has acclaimed lot of applause and he has been a star of that university and places, a great scholarly person. I thank him for all the way coming through from Mysore to here to present this paper. Thank you very much, Dr. Nandakumar. I request Mudugondan Garu to please honor Dr. Nandakumar. Chairs